The twin moons of Arvion 9 glowed over the quiet metal valley. The night air was cold, thin, and smelled faintly of ozone. Between the broken towers of an ancient alien city, a small fire flickered. And near that fire, a man was sleeping. He was not from this world. The alien stars reflected off the smooth metal of his strange tools. Tools from Earth. Wrenches. Scanners, plasma cutters, all lying uncovered beside him, still glowing faintly from use. Dust blew across them, hissing softly as it touched the hot metal. But the man didn't move. His breathing was slow and peaceful, like someone who had worked until exhaustion. A few meters away, hidden behind a half-collapsed pillar, someone was watching. It was Ariel, a young alien woman from the Rin species, blue-skinned, silver-eyed, and wearing a cloak made of shimmer cloth. She had never seen a human before. Her people told stories about them, terrible stories. They said humans were monsters who came from a dying planet. They said humans built machines that ate planets for power. But this one was just sleeping. She crept closer, her boots making no sound on the dust. The tools lying around him caught her eye. One looked like a cutting torch, but smaller. Another had blinking lights and human writing scratched on it. E-repair kit Mark 9. Mark 9. She whispered, the word tasting strange in her mouth. The man stirred slightly and Ariel froze. She raised her hand, her bracelet glowing, ready to send a silent alert to her patrol squad. But then she stopped. The man wasn't dangerous. He looked tired. His clothes were torn, his face covered with dust and small burns. One of his hands had a bandage made from his own shirt sleeve. He looked more like a survivor than a threat. Still, something bothered her. His tools, they were not covered. On Arvion 9, leaving your tools uncovered at night was foolish. The winds carried fine metallic dust that corroded anything exposed. Within hours, the man's gear would be ruined. Humans are careless, she muttered softly, shaking her head. But something deep inside her didn't let her walk away. She crouched beside his campfire, her silver eyes studying him. His chest rose and fell slowly. His breathing was heavy but calm. She saw his hand twitch. He was dreaming. For a moment, she imagined what a human dream might look like. Fire, war, destruction, or maybe something gentle, something she didn't expect. She looked again at his tools, precious, advanced human tech, and sighed. Against her better judgment, she began covering them with a piece of thermal cloth from her satchel. The fire cracked softly, throwing golden light across her face. As she reached for the last tool, the man's hand suddenly grabbed her wrist. Ariel gasped and tried to pull back. But his grip was strong, too strong for someone half asleep. His eyes opened. They were green, deep, human green, and filled with confusion. "Who are you?" he whispered, his voice rough and tired. Ariel froze. "You're awake." He sat up slowly, releasing her hand. His face was hard, scarred, and covered with dust, but his eyes were sharp. "You're Rin, aren't you?" he asked quietly. She took a step back, holding her wrist. "Yes, and you're human," he gave a weak smile. "Last I checked." For a few seconds, they just stared at each other, the human engineer and the alien scout, both stranded on a dead world. "What are you doing here?" Ariel finally asked, her voice cautious. "Trying to fix a transmitter," he said, pointing to a half-built antenna behind him, "so I can call my ship. But the storm cut my power cell in half." He sighed. "I didn't think anyone lived here." "No one does," she said softly. "At least no one should." The wind howled through the ruins, carrying a faint metallic echo like distant whispers. Both of them looked up. The sound didn't belong to the wind. It was mechanical. Ariel's eyes widened. "You need to leave now." The man frowned. "Why?" "Because," she said, voice trembling slightly, "you just woke the sentinels." In the distance, red lights began to flicker in the darkness. The ground vibrated as something heavy moved between the towers. The human grabbed his plasma cutter. "Sentinels?" he asked. Ariel nodded, fear flashing in her silver eyes. "They kill anything that breathes." He looked at her, then at his tools. "Then we'd better move fast." The night wind roared, and the ancient machines began to rise again. The ground shook again, harder this time. Dust fell from the broken towers like rain. The night sky glowed red for a second, then went dark again. Ariel's heart pounded in her chest. She had heard stories about the Sentinels, ancient machines built by the Arvian engineers thousands of years ago to protect their cities. But after the civilization vanished, the sentinels stayed behind. They didn't know peace, didn't understand mercy. They simply followed one rule: destroy intruders. The human, still sitting by his fire, blinked once and stood up slowly. "How many are there?" he asked, his tone calm but eyes sharp. Ariel turned toward the glowing ruins. "If one woke, the others will follow. Maybe 4, maybe 20. He gave a short nod. "That's bad," she frowned. "You sound very calm for someone about to die." He smirked slightly. "It's not my first time." Then, without warning, he grabbed his pack, stuffed his uncovered tools inside, and began attaching a small glowing cube to his belt. "EMP trigger," he explained when he saw her confused stare. "Short range. Won't stop them, but might give us 10 seconds. Ariel hesitated. 10 seconds to do what? He looked at her with steady eyes. "Run." Before she could reply, a metallic screech echoed through the valley. One of the towers cracked open, and from inside a giant metal figure crawled out, tall as a small ship, eyes burning like molten fire. Ariel whispered, "Sentinel class for..." The human raised his plasma cutter. "Beautiful." The machine turned its head toward them, scanning the area. Its voice was deep and mechanical, speaking in an ancient language neither of them fully understood. But the meaning was clear. It had found them. Then it moved. The sentinel's steps were thunder. Each movement shook the broken ground. The human aimed his cutter and fired a bright blue beam, slicing through one of its sensor arms. Sparks flew, but the machine didn't stop. "Run!" Ariel shouted. They sprinted through the ruins, the heavy thuds of the sentinel close behind. The air filled with dust and red light as the machine fired energy bolts that shattered stone walls and melted metal. The human ducked behind a fallen beam, pulling Ariel down with him. "What's the fastest way out?" She pointed toward the canyon ridge. "Through the tunnels, but they're unstable." "Good," he said, pulling a small device from his pocket. "Unstable means even the big guys can't follow easily." Ariel looked at him in disbelief. "You humans are insane," he smiled tiredly. "It keeps us alive." They ran again, leaping over broken platforms and dodging falling debris. The sentinel roared behind them, its red eyes glowing brighter. Ariel could feel the heat of its plasma fire on her back, then suddenly, the human stopped. "What are you doing?" she yelled. He turned and tossed the EMP cube onto the ground. "Cover your ears!" Ariel barely had time to duck before a silent flash of blue exploded outward. The air itself seemed to freeze. The sentinel's lights flickered, then went dark. It collapsed to one knee, groaning like a dying beast. 10 seconds, the human said. "Let's go." They dashed through the narrow canyon passage, stumbling over rocks and ancient cables. The walls hummed faintly, still carrying energy from centuries ago. As they ran, Ariel looked at him from the corner of her eye. His movements were efficient, fast but not panicked. She could see he had training, maybe military, maybe engineering. His breathing was rough but steady. "You said your ship. Where is it?" she asked between breaths. "Orbit," he replied. "Damaged. I came down here to find fuel cells. And you fell asleep instead?" she teased, trying to catch her breath. He gave a small laugh. "Yeah, I didn't expect company." Before Ariel could reply, the ground trembled again. This time it wasn't one sentinel. Multiple red lights appeared behind them. Her blood ran cold. They're adapting. EMP didn't last long. The human looked back and grimaced. Figures. Old tech, smarter than it looks. They reached a large metal hatch half buried in the canyon floor. The human kneeled and started cutting through it with his plasma tool. "Hurry!" Ariel shouted. The hatch melted open just as another energy blast hit the canyon wall beside them, throwing heat and sparks into the air. The human pushed Ariel through the hole first, then jumped in after her. They tumbled down a dark tunnel, sliding through dust and rubble, until they landed hard on a cold metal surface far below. For a moment everything was silent. Only the sound of their heavy breathing filled the darkness. Ariel lifted her wrist light. The tunnel around them was smooth, metallic, and filled with ancient carvings. "This place," she whispered, shining the light around. "It's older than the sentinels." The human stood up slowly, brushing dust from his jacket. "Then maybe we're not running into danger," he said. A deep hum suddenly echoed through the tunnel walls. Blue lights began to flicker one by one, illuminating symbols that hadn't glowed for centuries. Ariel's voice trembled. "Or maybe we just woke something even older." The tunnel lights came alive one after another, soft blue lines glowing across the metal walls. The sound that followed wasn't mechanical. It was deep and alive, almost like breathing. Ariel stepped closer to the glowing wall, her silver eyes wide with fear and wonder. This place. It's reacting to us. The human looked around carefully. His boots echoed softly as he moved deeper into the tunnel. Or to me, he said under his breath. She turned toward him. What do you mean? He pointed at the glowing lines. They pulse faster when I move. Slower when you do. Maybe it's reading my biometrics, Ariel frowned. Impossible. The Arvion system was never designed for humans. He smiled faintly. Guess they didn't plan for everything. The tunnel widened into a vast underground chamber. The air was heavy but breathable, and the walls shimmered with energy patterns that looked like veins under skin. In the center of the room stood a massive circular device, part monument, part machine. Its surface was covered in alien symbols, and in its core floated a faint blue crystal, spinning slowly in the air. The human's voice softened. It's beautiful. Ariel nodded, her voice almost a whisper. This is the heart of Arvion. It was supposed to be lost forever. He raised an eyebrow. Heart of Arvion? She looked at him, her expression serious. Legend says it powers the entire planet. It gives life to the sentinels, the cities, the machines, even the atmosphere. When the Arvion people disappeared, the heart went silent. Until now. The human looked around, and we just turned it back on. Suddenly the ground vibrated again, but this time it wasn't violent. It was rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The glowing crystal brightened and a voice filled the chamber. A voice soft, ancient, and not quite human. Identity scan. Incomplete. Species unknown. Energy signature, human, access permitted. Ariel froze. It spoke to you. He frowned. Did it just say human access permitted? Yes, she whispered. No one has ever been granted access to the heart. Not even my people's leaders. He stepped closer to the floating crystal. The light shimmered across his face, showing exhaustion, curiosity, and something else. Grief. He reached out slowly. Wait, Ariel shouted, grabbing his wrist. You don't know what it will do. He looked at her calmly. Neither do you. Their eyes met, hers full of fear, his full of quiet determination. Then gently he placed his hand on the edge of the device. The world changed. The chamber walls shifted, melting into waves of light. Images flashed around them. Cities in the sky, oceans of silver, creatures of light walking among stars. Then came fire, explosions, war, the fall of the Arvion civilization. Ariel gasped, clutching her head as memories not her own flooded her mind. What is this? The human's voice echoed softly. History. A final image appeared, an Arvion scientist shaking hands with a human astronaut, both smiling. Both standing before the same heart of Arvion. Ariel's heart stopped. No, that can't be. Humans never came here before. He stared at the image in silence, his eyes wide. Looks like we did. Then the vision faded. The chamber went dark for a moment before a new light appeared on the wall. A circular doorway with glowing edges. The voice returned, calmer now. Welcome, descendant of the first engineer. The system awaits your command. Ariel turned to him slowly. Descendant? He swallowed hard. My great-grandfather. He was an astronaut. He disappeared on a deep space mission 90 years ago. Ariel took a step back, her mind racing. You mean, he came here? He nodded. Looks like it. Before they could say more, the tunnel behind them echoed with a mechanical roar. The sentinels were close again, angrier than before. Ariel pulled out her blaster. They followed us. The human looked at the doorway. No time for panic. If this heart can control the sentinels, we can stop them. She stared at him. You don't even know how it works. He grinned. I build machines for a living. I'll figure it out. He ran to the console beneath the floating crystal, hands flying across glowing symbols. The system responded instantly, recognizing his touch. Streams of data lit up the air. Come on, he muttered. Give me control. The sentinel's footsteps grew louder. Red light filled the tunnel mouth. Ariel shouted, They're here! The man slammed his hand onto the control pad. The heart flashed bright blue. For a moment, the entire chamber hummed with power and then silence. Outside, the sentinels froze. Their red eyes dimmed. Their weapons dropped. Ariel stared in shock. You stopped them, he smiled weakly. No, I told them to sleep. Then the lights around the heart dimmed again and the voice whispered one last time. Warning. Core instability detected. Planet collapse imminent. Ariel's face went pale. What did you do? He looked at the glowing crystal, its light flickering dangerously. I just woke up the planet. The chamber shuddered like a living thing. The blue light from the heart turned unstable, flashing between bright white and deep red. The sound grew, no longer a hum but a deep, painful roar that shook the ground. Ariel covered her ears. It's overloading. The human, still standing near the glowing console, didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on the spinning crystal. No, he whispered. It's not breaking. It's awakening. The walls around them began to ripple like liquid metal. Strange symbols appeared, rearranging themselves in spirals. The tunnel they came through sealed shut with a heavy clang. Ariel ran to him, grabbing his arm. We have to leave now. He turned to her slowly. If we leave, the sentinels wake up again. And then no one survives, not us, not anyone who ever lands here. Her voice trembled. And if we stay, we die with the planet. He didn't answer. He looked back at the console, where the glowing symbol shifted again, forming a new phrase. System reboot. 3 minutes until planetary synchronization. Ariel frowned. What does that mean? He rubbed the back of his neck. If I'm right, this thing's about to restart the whole planet, like turning on a sleeping giant. The ground shook again, harder. Dust fell from the ceiling as cracks appeared on the walls. Ariel steadied herself and shouted over the noise. If this thing wakes up the planet, what happens to us? He smiled grimly. We find out, Ariel's heart pounded. She couldn't believe this man, this human, could still joke while standing in front of the end of the world. But something about him made her hesitate. The calm in his eyes wasn't pride. It was purpose, like someone who had lost everything once and refused to run again. She took a deep breath. Then what do you need me to do? He looked surprised for a moment, then nodded toward a set of cables running up the wall. I need you to stabilize those. The energy feed's unstable. If it collapses, this place will melt. Ariel sprinted toward the cables. Her hands shook as she connected power cores and redirected energy lines. Sparks flew, burning her sleeves, but she didn't stop. The man worked at the console, typing faster now, his face lit by flashes of blue and red. Come on, he muttered, just a little more. Suddenly the heart screamed, a sound like metal tearing through space. A wave of energy burst outward, knocking them both to the ground. The chamber went dark. For a moment, only silence. Then slowly, the lights returned. But they were different now, soft gold instead of blue. The crystal floated quietly, glowing like a calm star. Ariel blinked. Did we do it? The human stood up slowly, his hands trembling. I think so. A soft voice filled the chamber again, gentler than before. System stabilized. Planetary defense offline. Atmospheric regeneration active. Ariel gasped. You did it. You woke the planet, but you stopped the sentinels. The human looked around, a faint smile on his face. Maybe we just gave it a second chance. He touched the console again. If the heart is alive, it can rebuild the world. Maybe the Arvion people didn't die, they went to sleep waiting for someone to wake them. Ariel looked at him in awe. You talk like this planet is alive. He met her gaze. Maybe it is. Before she could respond, the golden light around the heart shifted again. The floating crystal pulsed softly, then projected a holographic image in the air. An Arvion scientist standing beside a human astronaut. The recording played automatically. To whoever finds this, the Arvion's voice said, the Arvion project was never meant for war. We built the Sentinels to protect life, not destroy it. But when fear took over, our creations turned on us. So we sealed the heart, waiting for a descendant of our human ally to return. A pause. Then the human astronaut in the hologram spoke. If you're my blood, know this. Don't repeat our mistakes. Machines can't love, but humans can teach them. Keep them safe, and if you meet a Rin, trust her. They were our friends once. The hologram faded away. Ariel stood frozen. He eat your ancestor. He knew my people. The human smiled softly. Looks like we've been connected longer than anyone remembers. She looked at him differently now, not as an invader, not as an enemy, but as something unexpected. Maybe our worlds were never meant to be enemies. Before he could reply, a deep rumble echoed through the floor. The heart's golden glow flickered again. Ariel tensed. What now? He checked the console, his expression turning serious. The power surge hit the core too hard. The heart's stable, but the planet's crust isn't. She frowned. Meaning? He met her eyes. We saved the world, but now it's falling apart. The ground split open on one side of the chamber, revealing molten light below. The temperature rose fast. Ariel shouted, "We need to get out!" He looked toward a tunnel newly formed on the far side, the holographic door glowing faintly. That way! Together they ran as the chamber began to crumble behind them. The light of the heart followed them like a dying sun, fading as the world trembled awake. They didn't look back. Not yet. The tunnel shook as they ran, each step echoing through the ancient metal beneath them. Behind them, the heart of Arvian glowed dimly, its golden light fading like the last heartbeat of a dying star. Hot air rushed through the cracks in the walls, carrying the smell of burning stone. The ground beneath them trembled as parts of the planet shifted, groaning like something vast and alive. Ariel stumbled, but the human caught her arm, pulling her back to her feet. "Keep moving," he shouted. They burst into a wide corridor that led deeper underground. Strange lights flickered on the walls, ancient systems waking up after thousands of years. The symbols that once glowed cold blue were now bright gold, responding to the human's presence again. Ariel glanced at him. "It's reacting to you again. Why does this planet know your blood?" He didn't look back. "I don't know, but I'm starting to think my family's history is much older than I was told." The path ahead split into two. The left tunnel glowed faintly, warm and inviting. The right tunnel was dark and silent. Ariel hesitated. Which way? The human studied the light coming from the left tunnel. Energy readings are stronger that way. Maybe a power station or something alive, she frowned. Something alive. He smiled slightly. Only one way to find out. They followed the light. The air grew cooler, calmer. The tremors faded. As they walked, the corridor walls changed, from metal to smooth white stone covered in carvings. The symbols looked like flowing water frozen in motion. Then they entered a vast hall. Ariel gasped. Her voice echoed softly. By the stars. The hall was filled with giant crystal pillars, glowing softly like moonlight. Between them were figures frozen in glass. Arvian people, tall and elegant, their faces peaceful as if asleep. Each one was preserved perfectly, their clothes still shining with metallic threads. The human whispered, "They're not statues." Ariel's eyes widened. "They're alive," he nodded slowly. "Cryostasis chambers. They put themselves to sleep." She walked closer, pressing her hand against the glass. "I grew up hearing they vanished after the Great Collapse. My ancestors searched for centuries, thinking they were gone forever." He looked around. Maybe they were waiting for someone to wake them. At that moment, a soft humming filled the air. The pillars pulsed with light one by one. The ground beneath them shifted gently. A voice echoed through the hall, calm and feminine. Genetic match detected. Human and Rin signatures confirmed. Revival sequence initiated. Ariel turned in shock. What did it say? The human stepped back. It said revival sequence. The crystal pillars began to glow brighter. Inside them, the Arvian figures slowly moved, their eyes fluttering open, their hands twitching. Ariel's breath caught. They're waking up. The human raised his hand to shield his eyes from the growing light. This can't be happening. One by one, the chambers opened with a hiss. The Arvian people stepped out, tall, graceful, their eyes glowing faint blue. Their movements were calm, almost mechanical at first, then more natural. The first of them approached. He wore armor of silver plates and had a mark across his forehead, shaped like the heart symbol. He looked at the human, then at Ariel. "Rin and human," he said, his voice deep but calm. The prophecy fulfilled. Ariel stared. "Prophecy?" The elder nodded. "Our ancestors knew this world would one day fall, so they left a key, human blood and Rin spirit. Together they could wake the heart." He looked directly at the human. "You carry the legacy of the first engineer." The man hesitated. "I don't even know his name." The elder smiled faintly. "His name was Elias Varon. He came from Earth. He built the link between our worlds before the war." The human froze. "Elias Varon?" He swallowed hard. "That's my great-grandfather." Ariel turned to him, eyes wide. Then the heart really recognized your blood. The elder nodded. Yes, you have reawakened Arvion. The world breathes again. The walls shimmered with light. Streams of golden energy flowed upward, repairing cracks and restoring life to the planet. But the elder's expression darkened. Yet danger remains. The sentinels have learned to resist the heart's call. They seek control. The human frowned. You mean they can think for themselves now? Yes, said the elder. They have evolved. They believe themselves the true guardians of this world. They will destroy all who oppose their logic. Ariel stepped forward. Then we have to stop them before they destroy everything again. The elder placed his hand on her shoulder. You will not fight alone. The Arvion will rise again, but first the heart must be stabilized from the core, deep below the planet's crust. The human sighed. Figures. Always deeper. Ariel smiled faintly despite the tension. You humans never give up, do you? He met her eyes. Not when someone needs help. The elder extended a glowing orb between them. Take this. It will lead you to the core. Only together can you survive what waits below. The orb floated between them, spinning softly, projecting a path deeper into the earth. Ariel took a deep breath and looked at the human. Ready? He adjusted his worn jacket and smiled. After all this, I was born ready. The hall glowed brighter as they followed the light into the unknown, unaware that high above, the red eyes of reawakened sentinels were already turning toward their signal. The light from the orb guided them deeper into the planet. The tunnel sloped downward, walls shifting from cold metal to glowing stone that pulsed with faint light, like the veins of a sleeping creature. The air grew hot and heavy. Every breath burned. Ariel wiped sweat from her forehead. How far down does this go? The human glanced at his scanner. About 2 miles below surface. Maybe more, she frowned. You sound too calm for someone walking straight into a furnace. He smiled faintly. Calm keeps my hands steady. The orb floated ahead, leaving a trail of golden sparks. As they followed, the ground began to vibrate again. Not from earthquakes this time, but from something alive. Ariel stopped. Do you feel that? He nodded. Yeah, a rhythm like a heartbeat, she finished softly. The tunnel widened into a vast underground chamber. Rivers of molten metal flowed between rock bridges, glowing bright orange. In the center of it all was a colossal machine, half buried in the lava, a sphere the size of a city, spinning slowly, humming with deep energy. The core of Arvion. The human stared, awe mixing with fear. That's beautiful. Ariel took a step forward. And dangerous. The stories say only the true engineer can touch the core. He gave a small laugh. Guess I'll find out if the stories are right. But before they could move closer, the ground trembled violently. From the lava pools, metal shapes began to rise. Dark skeletal sentinels with glowing red eyes. Their bodies were melted, fused with the rock, their movements slow but unstoppable. Ariel gasped. They survived the reboot. The human grabbed his plasma cutter, its blue light flaring to life. No time for talk, move. The sentinels roared in unison, their voices deep and metallic. Energy beams shot across the chamber, slicing through stone. One blast hit near Ariel, throwing her backward. The human ran to her side, pulling her up. You okay? She nodded, coughing. We can't fight them all. He scanned the area quickly. No, but we can slow them down. He pointed toward a cluster of energy conduits on the ceiling. If we cut those cables, we can drop molten debris on them. Ariel's eyes widened. That could bury us too. He smirked. Let's hope my aim's better than my luck. He climbed onto a metal beam and aimed his cutter upward. The plasma burned bright as he sliced through the thick cables. Sparks exploded, followed by a thunderous crash as chunks of molten rock fell, crushing several sentinels beneath the heat. Ariel covered her face from the blast wave. When the dust cleared, only 3 sentinels still stood, damaged but enraged. She shouted, The orb, it's reacting. The golden orb in her hand glowed brighter, forming a protective field around them. Energy beams from the sentinels hit the field and scattered like rain. The human looked at her in surprise. You're controlling it. Her voice trembled. No, it's protecting you. He blinked. Me? The orb pulsed once more, then shot forward toward the core, embedding itself in the machine's surface. The ground lit up with lines of golden light, forming patterns that spread across the entire chamber. Then, a voice echoed again, this time not mechanical but human. Elias Varan. Authorization confirmed, the human froze. That's my great-grandfather's name. The core spoke again. Descendant detected. System awaiting final synchronization. Ariel turned to him. It's calling you. He looked at the swirling energy surrounding the core. If I connect to it, I can stabilize the planet. She grabbed his arm. Or you could die trying. He smiled weakly. That's kind of the story of my species, isn't it? Before she could stop him, he stepped toward the glowing core. The energy field shifted around him, scanning his body. He felt a warmth spread through his chest, and for a moment he saw everything. Cities rebuilding themselves. Mountains forming. Rivers of light flowing across continents. The planet's soul waking. Then, darkness. The Sentinels roared again, their systems fighting against the new order. One of them jumped onto the bridge, swinging its burning claws. Ariel fired her blaster, hitting its head, but it didn't stop. Finish it, she screamed. Whatever you're doing, do it now. The human closed his eyes and pressed his hand onto the core. Activate stabilization sequence, he said quietly. The core responded instantly. Accepted. Beginning final integration. A beam of golden light shot from the core, surrounding him completely. His body floated above the ground, his eyes glowing with the same light. Ariel watched in disbelief. You're becoming part of it. The light spread across the chamber, swallowing the sentinels one by one, melting them into dust. The ground stopped shaking. The rivers of molten metal cooled to silver, and then silence. Ariel ran toward him, her heart pounding. The golden light faded, and the human collapsed into her arms, barely conscious. She shook him gently. Hey, stay with me. He opened his eyes weakly, a faint smile on his lips. Guess it worked. She blinked back tears. You did it. You saved Arvion, he whispered. No, we did. Then his eyes closed, and the core behind them began to pulse softly, like a heartbeat matching his. Ariel looked up at the glowing sphere, her voice trembling. Please don't take him from me. The core responded with a single whisper, so soft it almost sounded human. He lives, but his fate is bound to mine. Ariel looked down at him, tears glistening in her silver eyes. Then I'll stay too. She held him close as the chamber filled with light once more, signaling the birth of a new world. The core's golden light bathed the vast chamber, soft and warm like sunrise after endless night. The tremors had stopped. The molten rivers were now silver streams, glowing gently beneath glassy stone. Ariel sat beside the human, his head resting in her lap. His breathing was slow but steady, his face calm. The glow that once surrounded him had dimmed, but faint golden lines still ran across his arms like living tattoos, proof that the core had touched his very soul. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The silence felt sacred, filled with something larger than life. Finally, she whispered, You're alive. He opened one eye and gave a weak smile. Barely, but yeah, still here. Ariel laughed softly, though tears shimmered in her eyes. You scared me, human. He tried to sit up, wincing at the weight pressing on his chest. I scare myself sometimes. The core above them pulsed again, its deep hum echoing through the cavern. A voice spoke, soft, female, ancient. Stabilization complete. Planetary life returning. But balance requires final link. Ariel looked up. Final link? The human frowned. What does that mean? The voice continued. Energy must remain constant. The one who awakened the core must stay connected, or the system will fall again. Ariel's heart froze. Stay connected? You mean he can't leave? The core glowed brighter, as if answering. The human's essence is bonded to the heart. Removing him will end the harmony. The human's expression changed. He wasn't surprised. Maybe deep down he'd known this was coming. He stood up slowly, looking around the now living chamber. So this is the cost, he said quietly. Ariel shook her head. No, there has to be another way. He turned to her, his smile tired but kind. There's always a cost. My great-grandfather helped build this world. Maybe I was meant to finish what he started. She took a step closer, her silver eyes full of emotion. You'll die here. He looked at the glowing core. Or live forever as part of something bigger. Ariel's hands trembled. You can't mean that. You're human. You're not a machine, he met her gaze. Maybe not. But if staying means this planet lives, if it means you live, Then maybe that's enough. The silence that followed was heavy. The only sound was the slow heartbeat of the core. Then suddenly the ground above rumbled again, distant but strong. The sentinels, the ones that survived above, were reawakening, drawn by the core's signal. Ariel looked upward in fear. They're coming. If they reach the core, he interrupted gently. They won't, I'll make sure of it. She grabbed his wrist. No, you've done enough. Let me stay instead. He shook his head. The core chose me. It reads my bloodline. Only I can stabilize it. Tears rolled down her cheeks. You humans, always choosing to sacrifice yourselves, he smiled sadly. Maybe that's why we survive. Ariel looked at him, pain in her eyes. If you stay, what happens to you? He glanced at the core's glowing heart. I'll merge with it. My body will fade, but my mind, my memories, they'll stay here. I'll see the stars through this planet's eyes, she whispered. Then I'll never see you again. He hesitated, then gently took her hand. Maybe not like this, but you'll feel me. In the wind, the light, the machines that wake. Every time this planet breathes again, I'll be there. Ariel bit her lip, trying not to cry. You always joke, even now. He grinned faintly. It's what we do when we're scared. The core's voice returned, softer this time. Synchronization ready. Awaiting final consent. The human turned to Ariel. Take the orb. It will guide your people when they return to the surface. Promise me you'll rebuild. Not like before, but better. She nodded, holding the glowing orb close. I promise. He took one last deep breath, stepping into the core's golden light. It rose around him like a sunrise, wrapping his body in warmth. His voice echoed softly as he spoke the final command. Begin, Link. Elias Varen's line completes the circuit. The core flared brilliantly. The light swallowed him, filling the cavern with waves of energy. The ground steadied, the air cleared, and above them the clouds broke for the first time in centuries. The planet of Arvion was reborn. Ariel fell to her knees, shielding her eyes. When the light faded, he was gone. Only the faint glow of golden lines remained where he had stood. The core spoke one final time, its voice gentle and human. Do not grieve. He is part of the heart now. The engineer sleeps and the world dreams again. Ariel placed her hand on the glowing floor. Rest, human. The galaxy will remember you. High above, on the planet's surface, green life began to spread across the ruins. Rivers flowed, winds sang through the towers. And the sentinels, once destroyers, stood still, silent, guarding the world their maker saved. And deep beneath it all, the core pulsed softly like a heartbeat. A rhythm of two souls, one human, one alien, forever united in light.